So you're probably struggling to find the best blending tool. You've looked everywhere, but you can't seem to say yes to the tool. But what if I told you the answer is as easy as walking to your bathroom or your dresser, or if you like painting? The possibilities are endless, and I'm here to point you in the right direction. Hello or welcome back to AureusArts, where we explore the creative arts of the world however we see fit. If you're new here, welcome to the community. We hope that you're feeling good, staying safe, and be yourself. Today's shout out goes to Professionality TV. Thank you so much for your comment and your subscription. If you guys want a chance to add a shout out, subscribe to my channel and comment down on any one of my videos. At the end of every week, I will be picking a lucky subscriber and they'll get a chance to have a shout out at that week. Good luck, you guys. Now back to the video. To start off, let's define what blending is. Blending, I like to think of it as a technique. It's more of a basic technique where you're basically just combining elements on a page. This becomes a gradual and seamless thing that creates depth and shape and character to your work. I am aware that there are different tools of blending out there, and depending on who you are and the user, these tools are different. I am going to be only highlighting 8 specific tools that I find important, whether you're a beginner, an intermediate person, or a complete freaking professional. 4 of them I use and are the basics, and basically what your teacher tells you about it. Yes, I'm basic and used to it. The other half, I'm sure most of you haven't heard about them, or if you have, don't ignore it anymore, because it might help you. First on the list is something I'm sure you've used, heard about, or even were told about and you just chose to neglect it, but anyway, I'm just gonna say it: tissue. Now, honestly, in my opinion, this is the most accessible, cost-efficient tool that I have ever come across in art. Besides the fact that it's cost-efficient, you use it for a very long time. I mean, this is literally a whole month's worth, or even 2 months worth, depending on how much shading you do and basically which tools you like to use. I like to think about it as you're killing 3 birds with 1 stone, because you not only are going to buy groceries, but you're also going to buy art supplies. I mean, 1 artistic haul for half the price? Come on. Major win. Maintenance? None whatsoever. When you're done, just check it in the door. Depending on how you use your roll of tissue, the amount won't really matter depending on the size of the work that you do. However, the number of pencils can determine the amount of tissue that you use. This is because of one simple thing. Different pencils have different bonding agents, and so some tend to be darker than others. So when you're shading with a 6B, 5B, 4B, and a 3B, and you want lighter shades to be where the 3B is and the darker shades where the 6B is, then you risk moving the shaded part of the 6B that you use with 1 tissue roll onto where the 3B part is, which won't fly because now you have shadows where you don't want.
You know you can be prosecuted for that!
So my 6th suggestion is make sure that you're sending a section of tissue to a pencil. That way you don't have that cross shading situation. Otherwise, in terms of usage, you can wrap it around a pencil, you can wrap it around a stick, or you can even wrap it around your finger, or create the cone method, which is the one I think everybody does on a regular basis. So depending on you, do whatever floats your boat. The beauty with tissue is you could always use the same shade over and over again, and other than that little immigration of graphite, there is no problem. Next in line for our list are Q-tips. Q-tips, cotton buds, ear swabs, cotton swabs, whatever you call them, you get the idea. These helpful things. From what I have discovered, they are considered the cheaper version of a Tortillion. They, of course, are a different material, but they are somehow smoother when it comes to shading. Well, they'll also depend on the paper you're using. Like tissue, these are pretty convenient, and you just need to buy a pack and you have 100 of these. So they are also cost efficient. But despite all the good things I say, they also have their problems. One being the very fact that they only have 2 heads, meaning you're kind of limited on how many times you can use it, and not to mention how you can use it. So if you're using 6 different pencils, 6 different Q-tips. But there is a plus side, because once you're done with it, there is no maintenance cost. Just check it out. It has a similar problem to the tissue where it deposits the product somewhere where you don't want it if you're using the same one, and it's even worse because it soaks up that product. But you can use this to your advantage, as where you can take product from one side and deposit somewhere else and create a lighter shadow, if you're getting my drift. Now this is an alternative for those who find Q-tips and tissues too messy. Brushes. So specifically soft bristled brushes, not the hard bristled ones. Those are just going to eat your graphite or your charcoal. They help make the process pretty smooth, and honestly speaking, I prefer using this most of the times, especially when I'm doing big pieces. It really helps get the details in there, and it really helps with being less crazy. Of course, if you already paint, that means you just have brushes lying around like me, and so it's a very cost efficient in the sense of like you buy one and you get like a two thing. And if you're worried about ruining your brushes, don't, because all you gotta do is use it, hit it off, and wash it, and your brush is good and new. I have used this to shade before and I'm happy with it. There's not really any big science to it. Up, down, side, side, depending on where you want to shade. Maintenance, like I mentioned before, just tap it on your hand, or you can do that depending on what you're going to use. My recommendation is keep to flat brushes. If you do want to use a round brush, nothing is stopping you. I just find flat brushes are a lot more effective and, well, better. Okay, now for the more extravagant things. So our tortillions are most commonly known as shading stamps or paper stamps. These are a double-sided clear-like pencil that is technically made out of paper that's like smashed together. Using it is like coloring, honestly speaking, but it's a clear pencil. It's very straightforward. I mean, they sometimes are expensive. You only ever need to buy one and you're kind of sorted for like a long time because it's like never ending. They are really good for your details, but there's a catch. The catch is that you never really know how to use it until you have one, so yeah. And I can tell you how to use it because every artist has their own style of using it. As for maintenance, honestly speaking, I find that is the best in terms of doing that because it does have the same situation of graphite immigration, but the beauty is that you can always cut it off and start again. Now, this is also another thing that is a problem with the Tortillion. When you use the blending step, when you want to sharpen it again, depending on the size that you get, you're very limited on how you want to sharpen it. Exhibit A is you have a small one. It's too small to go within the sharpener, and so when you're sharpening it, your sharpener needs to be really sharp or you're gonna have an awkward thing sticking at the top. Yeah, Exhibit B is that when you have one that's too big, it can't fit in the big sharpening hole, and so you're stuck going with it at X-Acto knife. So just to keep an X-Acto knife or a cutter in handy, that way you can shave it off. But like I said before, it is a 50-50 situation, and honestly speaking, only you, the user, can determine whether you want it. Alright, so I've talked about tissue, Q-tips, and brushes. These are all external tools that you can invest in, and well, you have shading tools, but there are 10 specific tools that you can use. They're free, and honestly, these are these human sausages. Now, I have nothing against using fingers, and I feel like it's the only way and the best way for beginners, but I have mixed feelings about them, and I'll get to why in a minute. But it's essentially a free option and the most accessible option to my knowledge because they are attached to you. But my problem is the oils that are based in your skin. If you're using graphite, charcoal, that kind of stuff, you risk transferring oils from your skin to your work, and that essentially couldn't be bad. On top of that, long period of time, like if you're doing a really big piece, your fingers will start hurting, and the friction is not comfortable if you use them for a long period of time. And on top of that, you have the risk of cross, like, you know, graphite immigration because your fingers pick up that graphite on top of that. So not only is it bad for your work, but it's also bad for your fingers because of the pain and the graphite and basically all those kind of problems. Otherwise, in maintenance, just keep your hands clean. I wouldn't say remove the oil from your hands and you solve my problem. Honestly, that's just putting in more problems because now there's friction. I would suggest just keep using them. Just bear that in mind whenever you do it. It's my personal opinion, so there's that. So otherwise, when you're done, wash them up, oil them up. And with that, I have a question. What has 5 fingers and is it your hand? My hand. So the sixth thing that we're going to talk about is called a soft tool. These are greatly assembled, they greatly resemble palette knives. They're literally like a plastic palette knife with like a soft material put on top. It's like spongy but very soft, you know, like one for makeup gurus are gonna call you out. It's like a spongy thing that you use for your like eyelids before brushes came into thing. So I did some hunting and beware, they're expensive. Maintenance wise, I did read out that all you gotta do is kind of wash them, wipe them down, and then leave them out to dry. In terms of like graphite immigration, you normally buy more than one in a packet, so I'm sure that can solve out of these situations. You just pick which is what, and they come in a range of like the huge size to the smaller size. Now the next tool, and I find is the most bougie tool I've ever come across. It's called a chamois, or in layman's term, it's a cloth. It is a silk cotton hybrid, and from what I'm aware of, you just use it like tissue, but the biggest bonus is it's recyclable, so you really don't feel guilty when you're doing the tree stuff, apart from the fact it's part silk, but you get the idea. As a result, it lasts very long, and it pretty much use it like tissue. From what I understand, you just wrap around something and you do that. If you want to change pencils, flip it in, flip it out. You're not limited to the silk hybrid thing. You could use an old t-shirt, or you could use an old handkerchief. Either way, both of them work. For maintenance, all you gotta do is wash it and it's prepared for the next one. So like I said, you don't have to throw it out. If you've reached this far in the video, then that means you either have a medium that's not working, or you're just hoping that the next medium is cheaper than the other one previously. And don't worry, I got you covered, because the next one, all you gotta do is get your materials and you're one happy little artist. And this method is, well, layering. So layering is basically, I find, is the original method of how you do it. It's basically painting but with your tools, especially when you're acrylic painting, because basically all you're doing is laying the paint on top of each other. So it's basically picking a complement or a darker shade of whatever you like trying to blend, and just put it on top of the previous color and just blend it together. Like, you know, a fair warning, don't expect it to be smooth. Other than that, there's no maintenance required for this method. All you gotta do is just layer it up, keep your stuff together, and honestly, there's no cross graphite contamination, so it's very beginner friendly, so I would suggest that. However, don't take this that I'm an expert in layering. I'm still learning. I mean, everyone's still learning, and honestly, I find that it's a good tool to have. So those guys are the 8 various tools you can use for blending your work. I hope this was pointing you in the right directions if you were lost or if you were just starting. Comment down below which tool was your favorite, or which tool is your current favorite from, like, you know, your journey as an artist. Thank you so much for watching. This is AureusArts, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.